Okay, welcome to This Week in Jags Hoops. I'm Chad Cook. I'm joined here by my partner, Will Avery, and on the phone with us is our partner, Keenan Mann. We're going to talk some GRU Jaguars hoops and some other stuff as well. Let's put that first little card up that introduces what we're talking about. Okay, yeah, so the Jags were in the Peach Belt Sack Challenge over the weekend, doubleheader. Then we're going to look ahead at what's coming up. By the way, from that doubleheader, we've got some video. Keenan was at both games. I watched online, and so we'll rap about that a little bit. And then we'll do a little bonus coverage and talk about some college basketball in general. We've got Will here with us. He's got some inside scoop on Duke and things like that, and we'll make him share all his little secrets and things like that. But Will, welcome back.
Good to be back, man.
Okay. Keenan, you with us?
I'm here.
All right. We'll try. Hopefully the volume's a little better this week. We won't have you on blast and us on whisper. But let's start it up. If we put the Jags defeat Tusculum thing up there, first game, Keenan, you were really impressed with the Jaguars in their first game. Harold Dobie, welcome back, Harold, had 27 points and 13 rebounds, but the whole team played well, right?
No, they did, and I think the first time you and I talked about it, I mentioned to you how well I thought Harold played, and geez, I didn't realize his numbers were that good, but he definitely looked like, one of the best player on the floor. But just like you and I talked about when we sat and watched the practice, the whole team looked good that first night. They looked good the second night, but the first night they looked especially good.
Yeah, let's go to that second night. So the second night was against Anderson University. I know several years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, Anderson knocked GRU out in the Sweet 16 round of the NCAA tournament at ASU. So there's a little history there between the teams. And it was kind of, in my opinion, a contrast of styles between these two teams. If you go ahead and play the Anderson, is that? No, where's the play that one there? Yeah. Okay, so if we see here, this is Anderson's guards. Chandler Hash had 42 points. What was it like watching Chandler Hash score 42 points in person, Keenan?
It was fun to watch. The only thing I hate is that
fun. What do you mean fun?
Well, here's the thing with me. I like to watch a good player play no matter what color his jersey is. Now, I wish he'd have been on our team.
Right.
But it was fun to watch because he scored in all kinds of ways. I mean, very, very athletic, but also just could stroke it. So it was just fun to watch a good player play basketball. Like I said again, I hate the outcome turned out the way it did.
And I'm just messing with you, but he did it all. He did it all, right? The announcers were talking about, he just goes left every time, but he goes left pretty well, doesn't he, Keenan?
He goes left, right, forward, backwards. It's funny. At the half, I was sitting with Coach Brian, and they brought a stat sheet over. And I grabbed it first, and I laughed and said, "Coach, he's got 21." And he looked at me, deadpan, and said, "On his way to 40."
Yes, yeah.
Well, you know what they say about, you know which way the player is going, but you still can't stop him.
Right.
They call that greatness.
Okay, yeah, exactly. And he can shoot and he can play. He and the whole Anderson style was kind of a real fast pace. Attack of the basket from the guard position, whereas GRU, in my opinion, Keenan, I'll get your opinion being there close up, especially in the first half. Let's play this one right here. Especially in the first half, the guys really established an inside game. Would you agree, Keenan?
No, I agree. And I think you put it really well. I mean, it was a contrast in styles, and in boxing, there's a saying that styles make fights, and this was a slugfest. In the first half, Anderson got established and had the running game going, and the perimeter guys were just killing, where we were kind of pounding it inside. And in the second half, we made a pretty big run with a combination of inside and outside, mostly inside. But Dip finally made some lineup changes, and I think got a lineup on the floor that was able to bring it almost all the way back.
Yeah, what we're looking at right now is a lot of KJ Sherrill. Keenan, I know you can't see our screen, but KJ Sherrill really, it's affected the game on that left block in the first half, scoring multiple times, setting up his brother for a three-pointer a moment ago. He's about to set up D'Angelo, was it Boyce? I think it's D'Angelo Boyce for the three there. And so he really established himself. And that was the first half. But, you know, Keenan, I did a little research, and Anderson University, in addition to having, you know, a good team and a history, 4 of their 5 starters played 30-plus minutes a game last year, and their 5th guy played about 18 minutes a game. So you have a real experienced group, and ASU with 2 returning starters, one being Harold Doby, who missed the second half of the season. In addition to just a fast-paced style versus maybe a more methodical style, could it have been also just those guys from Anderson being more decisive, more already having an identity formed, as opposed to like ASU being an inside-only team? They might have been, you know how new teams, they get together and they want to overpass and make sure they're playing unselfishly, and was there maybe a little bit of that?
Yeah, I think so. The Anderson guys definitely, you know, seem to have more of a feel for what each other was going to do when they're on the floor, and they all kind of got. We were also commenting that they were basically doing whatever they wanted to do on the offensive end of the floor, getting to their spots, and almost every one of them. So yeah, you're right. They looked a lot more comfortable together, and because I still think, you know, GRU is going to have a big year. It's going to take them a few games to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you said right after the game. You said that Anderson's a tournament team, and there's no doubt in your mind that GRU will be too as well. I definitely agree.
I like to give both of you guys something to think about. You know, we talked about Cheryl being one of the better point guards that GRU has had.
And this is Keishan Cheryl, the brother of KJ. Yeah.
Yes, I think when I hear you guys talk about the contrasting styles, you know, from a point guard's perspective, one of the things you want to do is always control the tempo, especially at home. It's usually easier for you to do that. You know, with him being so young, I think that's something that he has to learn and will learn, that he needs to control, you know, what the style of play, what the tempo is going to be, you know, for his team to be successful. So I think, you know, that was a good lesson for him against Anderson. He's got to know that, you know, we can't get into this type of game with Anderson going up and down if we want to win it.
Well, you know, and that sets up something. Keenan, you won't see this on the screen, and hopefully the GRU guys don't get mad at me if they even watch this. But I put together a little thing that I call room for improvement. So the good thing about having a new team still being competitive early in the year is, you know, you have things to work on, and when you address those things, you get a lot better, make a big step change. So Will's talking about controlling the tempo. Bring this one up here, Ben. You know, the first 2 possessions of the game, talking about controlling the tempo. Go ahead and pause it, Ben. So you see there, in fact, if you could back it up a little bit, that would even be better. You know, this Chandler Hash, he brings the ball up the court. He's at half court. There's 5 Jags back, and Chandler Hash is the only one down court for the other team, and he just blows past the guard and maybe another guard and scores at the rim. And we'll go ahead and play that now. And so after that, right after that, GRU comes down and has a very methodical possession, gets a 3 out of it. Keishan Cheryl gets fed by KJ Cheryl. Go ahead and play at regular speed now. And so everything's good, but then they come right back and blow by the entire defense. Again, those are the first 2 possessions of the game. So that probably gives you a lot of confidence earlier as a guard-oriented team if you don't have to work for your first 2 baskets.
Especially that guy that, you know, scored 42. You let him get an easy one like that, he's feeling real good.
Yeah. So go ahead, Keenan.
I was going to say you're absolutely right about that, and you could play lots of clips like that from the first half, as I recollect, and it was another one of the observations that Coach and I were sharing, sitting there watching, and it completely turned around in the second half. And the point was that the GRU didn't do much to disrupt what those guys were trying to do in the first half.
Yes.
In the second half, it was markedly different. They were up in their faces the whole time, and they actually, you know, made those guys have to think a little bit more about what they were trying to do. But in the first half, it was a little more passive.
Yeah, we just played, in addition to those 2 blow-bys, we just played 2 inbound layups, uncontested, and then here's a play, I think. Oh yeah, just a kind of a second chance opportunity that Chandler Hash got that was probably uncalled for. So we counted up, I think, 10 to 12 points that were kind of given away. And I don't point that out to bring shame on anybody. It's just those are opportunities for improvement that coaches probably after they explode and go nuts actually are have reason to be optimistic about for the future, because one thing we know is that Jags team will address this and they'll come back stronger. Now, Keenan, another thing, we put another thing together, discovering how to win here was kind of like what I labeled it, but you mentioned it a second ago and we kind of played it here. Playing well on the inside in the first half, but they also have good perimeter guys. Ryan Weems and what's the guy's name? Devontae Thomas and of course Keishan Sherrill. These guys can play on the perimeter. So and it was their contribution in the second half that catapulted the team back into contention, right, Keenan?
No doubt about it. They missed shots early, but as the contest started winding down, those guys all kind of stepped up. I can remember every guy that you just named making a big shot down the stretch.
Yeah. And we've got the little video to show it here. I think we're going to see Weems get to the basket here. He's a dynamic player. I really like that guy. Made a couple defensive miscues in the first half, but he can really score the ball. And then this shot put the Jags up 56-55. This shot by Devontae Thomas, that was a big moment in the game. You can see the crowd and the bench getting pretty excited about that. Now, we haven't shown anything with Harold Doby yet. And Harold's an Augusta guy. He's actually a close friend of mine, and he had 27 and 13 the first night, and I don't know if you know Keenan, but I think he had 12 and 13 the second day. And you know what I like about Harold is go ahead and play where is it? Play this one right here, Ben. Harold didn't. He really doesn't have a post game. I'm sorry to say it. He really doesn't have like a traditional post game, and he doesn't step out and really make a lot of jump shots. But we have all these clips where he is rebounding offensively against 3 or 4 guys, him against them, and he comes up with that ball and he dives on the floor, and he's just a ball player because he's scored throughout his career in numerous ways, and now he seems to be really locked in scoring the kind of the workman-like way on the glass. Is that how you saw it both nights, or was that specific to the second game, Keenan?
No, that was really at both nights. He did a lot more of it the first night, but you hit it on the head again. If I can, I'll give an ode to Bill Walton here. He's the best player without a go-to move I've ever seen.
Oh yes. And this play epitomizes it. He gets his shot blocked. He goes again, gets it blocked again. He's on the floor. The other team has the ball, rips it away from him, keeps it alive, and ends up with a 3-point play for his buddy KJ Sherrill. And you can see the emotion after this little and one. And I really think this group is poised to come together and have a great season. There's so many pieces there, and I really look forward to it. Speaking of do you want to say anything about Harold on that stuff?
I would love to have a guy I don't have to run any plays for. He can get me 27 points.
Yeah. Well, 2 games and about 26 rebounds in those 2 games. So he is the definition of a great teammate, I would have to say. And speaking of the rest of the season, let's take a look ahead here. If we look at looking ahead, this little slide we put together. Coming up here, if you go ahead and pause that before it goes off the screen. Coming up here, we've got Bowie State, Shaw, Benedict, and Payne. If I'm not mistaken, that's all historically black colleges, and very good ones too. So Bowie State won the CIAA championship last year, went to the tournament. Benedict is looking to three-peat in the SIAC. Let's go ahead and put Benedict's slide up there. They're looking to three-peat. I think they've given the Jags quite a bit of trouble over the years. I know they beat them 2 years ago. I can't remember how last year's game turned out. Do you happen to remember that, Keenan, when Benedict came to town last year?
I don't remember that one, Chad.
Yeah, I should have looked that up. But they went to the second round of the Division II tournament. They're picked to three-peat in that tournament. And then the next time they play at home will be forget that. come back to the studio. Next time they play at home will be at Payne, and that's November 30th, and nobody has to explain how exciting that game will be. Everybody's ready for that one, but I guess
The
Will,
city's
you got something
biggest
on that?
cat fight, the Lions and the Jags.
Yeah, definitely. I bet Chris and Barry will be rocking for that game. I look forward to that. And then you can catch the Jags like I did. I was at a birthday party and I watched them on my phone, so you can catch them anytime you want, whether they're on the road or at home. Before we move on past the Jags, though, Keenan, you did a great interview with former Jaguar great Brian Schmall, former teammate of yours in the late '80s. Like I wrote on Facebook last week, he's one of my heroes. Keenan and Brian are kind of like two of my heroes. I used to go to every single AC Jags game. And so, Keenan, my question about that, it was such a great interview. I know it made me think and just really enjoy it. Lots of people have given great feedback to you about how much they enjoyed it. When you started the interview and you had your questions laid out, from that time to when it was completely finished, did the whole nature of the interview change? It seemed like it got more personal. Was that always planned, or did the process of reconnecting with Brian, did that lead to like more questions about life and your relationship and his relationship with his teammates and things like that?
Yeah, no, it actually, the questions actually took place in two parts. I mean, I got his first set of answers back, and then there was just so much stuff in there. Some of his answers, prompted some further questions. In fact, our editor-in-chief was one of the ones who suggested some more of the other questions. And so when I went back and asked those questions, that's when I got the second set of questions back, his answers to them, I was like, wow, this could be really good. And even still, I didn't know that it would turn out the way that it turned out. But it was fun to do, and Brian, really got a lot out of it. He even said so during the course of the interview, but afterwards he was really, really thankful and complimentary. So it was a good deal.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I enjoyed how he talked about, and I've thought about this myself. I'd like to get your opinion, Will and Keenan. I don't think I can remember a basketball play from when I was playing, like a shot going in, or, I kind of remember that it happened, but I can't picture it in my mind. But I can remember things like, playing the video game with my teammates, or going to like this party, or, hanging out in the dorm room arguing about who the best point guard in the NBA is. I have those images are etched in my mind, and he said something like that in there, that he misses, he remembers the times he had with his teammates, doesn't necessarily remember the things that actually happened on the court so much. And I think that's, I relate to that big time. How does that go with you, Will?
I remember a little bit of both, but definitely the moments with your teammates are the moments you cherish the most, because you spend so much time with those guys, and most of the time you're trying to forget what happened on the court.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes. What about you, Keenan? You agree with Brian on that?
Yeah, I agree with Brian, only because and I'm like you. I don't think I can remember many things many shots. I can remember some of the shots I missed because we ended up losing games, but most of the other stuff is all kind of melded together, and it's a good thing, because I can forget a lot of it that way. But the stuff with hanging out and just doing stupid stuff that you do when you're in college was the stuff that I still remember, and it comes up every time you talk to one of those guys, and you laugh like it just happened. So that was the cool part for me in doing the interview, because at the end, Brian, thanked me for helping him bring back some good memories, and geez, I had to do the same thing for him, because I'd forgotten a lot of stuff that he said, but he brought it all rushing back. It was pretty cool.
But those are the things that happen when you're old, like you guys, like you and Keenan.
That's right.
Keep living.
Well, and the other thing is, I didn't make enough shots to remember. So you actually made a few, and Keenan made a few as well. So it's been like 25 years since I made a shot. So that's probably the main thing. But yeah, that was a great AugustaBasketball.com. Keenan's interview series is where you find that. It was absolutely cool. I really enjoyed reading it. And you've got another one coming up, right, Keenan?
Yeah, and I don't know if we want to mention who it is yet, but I
Go
told
ahead.
him the bar's it's Derek Stewart, and I told him the bar had been set by Brian, and he was up to the challenge. So we'll see how this one turns out.
What did he tell you about the kinds of questions he wanted to receive from you?
Well, he read the interview with Brian, and then he fired right back to me on text and said, "Don't lob me any softball questions."
There you go. There you go.
So he's in. He wants to share his story too.
Great. I can't wait. And he's got an interesting story to tell, no doubt about it. Okay, so the bonus coverage, college hoops, opening day last night. I kind of wrote in my notes the preseason Final Four. What four teams would you rather see than Duke, Kansas, Michigan State, and Kentucky on the first night of basketball? It was a marathon day. I think games were on ESPN all day. And it was like Final Four action, too, as far as the level of play. Will mentioned, we're going to get into this, about the way they're calling the game now and the increased scoring, and that's always fun to see. But start off with a question. Andrew Wiggins for Kansas, Jabari Parker for Duke, and Julius Randle for Kentucky were the big headliners from yesterday, all freshmen. And so we'll go around the table. I thought before the game, I challenged myself, can I name 3 players in college basketball besides those 3 guys? And I came up with 3. I came up with Quinn Cook, because I've heard Will talk about him. He's a point guard at Duke. This P.J. Harrison, who I think got arrested over the summer at University of North Carolina. I remember hearing that. And all of a sudden, Poitras, this guy, this name from Kentucky rings in my mind, Poitras, because I think it's such a weird name. But that I guess it shows I'm not a college hoops fan like I am other, NBA and maybe even high school. But these guys' names. So Keenan, did you know 3 names before those 3?
I could have only told you only because I'd heard of those 2 guys. I knew who Jabari Parker was because of the Benji documentary.
Okay.
Because they went to the same school, and Andrew Wiggins because you guys pointed him out to me last year at the Peach Jam.
Yeah.
My third would have been a cheat because I would have just said Frank Booker Jr. But that's it.
Yeah, we know the Augusta guys, but so you actually know no college players besides those 3 guys. That is awesome. Now, Will, you probably know like 103, right?
Yeah, but I'm around. I'm a junkie. I'm a basketball junkie.
And you're young.
Yeah,
You've already established the fact that you're not old like me, like Keenan and me. So that's totally understandable. Okay, but we all watched, and it was well worth the watch. One thing I'm struck by is the fact that the coaches are the stars in college basketball. You turn on the TV and you see their faces, you see their quotes. Nobody is more visible than the college coaches and even the media members in a way, and we'll get to that in a little while. But put up Coach Cal's comments. Let's see, where is that, Ben? I think it's probably right there, Ben. Yeah, put that. So Coach Cal says he's got 5 of the 10 best high school kids in the country come to his school, and he says it's a program and they're connected. It's just not a traditional in sense that everybody stays for 4 years. So it's not fair when we walk in and everybody's more experienced than us, and it's your first, second, or third game out of the gate. We are at a big disadvantage. Well, I don't know about you guys, but when I watch Julius Randle play, I don't think that his coach is at a big disadvantage. What do you think, Keenan? What do you think of the big lefty last night?
I'm with you. He needs to come again with that one. I'm gonna invoke Ed Lover here. Come on, son.
Yeah, definitely. Now, by the way, Michigan State put it on the young boys from Kentucky, so I guess he was at somewhat of a disadvantage. But Will, before we go on to Michigan State, you mentioned how you were so impressed with his 27 points and 13 rebounds against one of the toughest, most physical teams out there.
I was. Rarely do you see a Michigan State team get out-rebounded. I mean, these guys pounded Michigan State on the boys last night. I think they out-rebounded by 12, but for a freshman, that's primarily playing down low to come in and get 27 points and 13 rebounds on a big stage against a Michigan State team, that was pretty impressive.
No doubt. And those clips we were playing were from the Peach Jam. Keenan mentioned seeing Andrew Wiggins at the Peach Jam. We also saw Julius Randle there a couple years ago up close and personal. Of course, the Peach Jam being played in our area. Now, speaking of, Coach Cal says his is not a traditional program. So, Will, most people would think of Duke as a traditional program, but they're also led by a freshman who dominated last night, scored 27 points himself, right?
Yes.
And you know, like he's got the flat top like Grant. Do you think there's some similarities there? I say Grant like I actually know him. You do know him, I'm sure, but go ahead, tell us what you think.
I think his game right now at this stage is probably more polished than Grant's was as a freshman. And he really carried us on his back last night. Grant didn't have to do that. He had Leitner and Hurley and those guys. And they were, you know, a big-time program already. But, you know, this guy is really phenomenal, the things he could do on the court on both ends of the floor. But the thing that, you know, I enjoyed the most about him is he was so poised throughout the night. He didn't make it, you know, one-on-one battle with Wiggins. He, you know, didn't get really emotional last night. He was out there like, you know, he was a senior, like I've been here before and this is what I do. Yeah. You know, that's the thing I like the most about him.
And let's see what Coach K had to say about him. I thought this was pretty cool stuff. While Coach Cal's complaining a little bit, Coach K says it's remarkable that a kid who is 18 in his second game can come in here, come to his hometown and play against Kansas, and he was sensational. Talked about how much emotion he poured out and how much he will grow from an experience like that. And but Keenan, you missed the Duke game, didn't you?
Yeah, I missed the Duke game, but I saw the highlights this morning. It's funny because I did see the lob last night, the lob pass that he caught for the dunk last night. And it's funny you guys were talking about the Grant Hill comparison this morning. They showed those things side by side. It looked like they rehearsed them, you know, 20 years apart.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You got the flat top and the lob, and man, who can say anybody's better than Grant Hill? But this guy can shoot the ball too. So I mean,
he really can.
God, he's dynamite. Okay, so now. One of the things I read, because by the way, Duke did not win. They lost to Kansas and Andrew Wiggins and the crew.
Keep reminding me.
Yeah, exactly. But one of the things that I read this morning was that Bill Self said that he tried to keep Wiggins off of Parker so he wouldn't get in foul trouble, but then Wiggins switched himself to Parker. And that reminded me, let's go over here to this one right here, Ben. When we mentioned seeing these guys in the Peach Jam, and this was the scene a couple years ago when, by far the most exciting Peach Jam game I've ever seen when Randall and Wiggins played against each other. Randall from Kentucky, who we talked about earlier, but Wiggins intentionally, you could tell he wanted to guard Julius Randle. You'll see him in a moment here guarding him while he's being backed in. But he guarded him the whole game, did a great job, held him to like 15 points, and took a beating all night from Randall's physical style. But one of the coolest moments of the game was this series of block shots that Wiggins had. And so let's go ahead and play that, the Wiggins block. Where is that? Right there. Yeah, so here you have Randall. You saw a lot of this last night, grinding his way to the hoop, and Wiggins had the big block there, and then the big block against current Duke Blue Devil, Matt Jones. So he's dynamite. But Will, you think the early returns are, is it Parker's the best, or what, Parker and Randall, or kind of maybe 1 centimeter ahead of Andrew Wiggins?
I do. I think both guys, Parker and Randall, are ahead of him right now. I think Parker is the most NBA ready right now to go and play right away and be effective. Only reason I said it because I didn't see Randall go right any last night. You know, he really dominated guys going left. In the NBA, they'll figure that out really quick.
Yeah. So, well, don't worry about going to that one. So where I want to end things is Keenan and I had a text message back and forth last night, and you mentioned Randall going right, and Randall had a lot of trouble in the first half. He was 1 out of 5, but he turned the ball over that led to easy buckets on the other end by kind of over penetrating, and there wasn't a lot of movement, and so the Michigan State guys were helping, stripping the ball from the help side and getting layups, and so that was kind of it started this thing where Jay Billis, former Duke Blue Devil, brilliant guy, knows 20 times more than I'll ever forget about basketball than me. But I still can't help but say he was funny to listen to last night. So we'll test it out. Will hasn't seen these comments. I ran them by Keenan earlier. I think Keenan enjoyed them a little bit. We'll see what Will thinks. So Jay Billis, by the way, we have a thing here. I know in Augusta, I don't know if guys do it nationwide, but Bill Walton is like, a god with us, and he says the funniest things when he calls games. And so I was saying Billis is the new Walton. And but let's go ahead and show this. So speaking of when Julius Randle was getting the ball stripped, Billis mentioned that he really enjoyed the gap presence from Michigan State. So I like that one. It's kind of like he was at a coach's clinic or something. And then after the game, Izzo said we were gapping it really well in the first half, and so these guys get their lingo going, and I think they can spare the rest of us with that kind of talk, right? But the better one to me was when Jalen Rose, who's a personal favorite of mine, said that Michigan State did a great job of playing boxes and elbows during the game, and I thought that was a cool way of saying what happened in the first half with Randall and Michigan State. So comment number 2 that we recorded from Mr. Billis was. I really like this one. So, minute and 45 to go in the half, 40-29 Michigan State. They're shooting 60% from the field. Harris hadn't missed a shot, right? Harris and Adrian Payne hadn't missed a shot. I mean, these guys are on fire. And he says they've got 40 points. Spartans have 40 points, and I think they should have 50. Tom Izzo, I forgot to put the last word. Tom Izzo has to be concerned. I'm thinking these guys are playing perfect basketball. They don't have to be concerned. What do you think about that one, Keenan?
No, we talked about it earlier. It was so funny to hear him say that. Almost saying we'd be up by 10 if we'd have made 10 more points.
Yeah, Keenan texted me and he said Kentucky would be winning if they weren't losing. That would be another way of saying the kind of thing that Billis spit out of his mouth.
Y'all get off my man.
Yeah. Hey,
he's under pressure up there.
I said he knows 20 times more than I'll ever forget. So the last one though is. Okay, so they're holding for one shot, and the Spartans will look to shoot with 3 seconds remaining, possibly 4. And so the image in my head there was like, you're at the fair and you're like, you get to pick when you shoot the shot. That's not exactly the case when you've got the Kentucky defense across the way from you. So that was good stuff. But Keenan, thanks for joining us. I think we'll wrap it up.
Now, wait a second, Chad. I got 2 more things, though.
Yeah.
So first, I know some people that would take offense to you saying that was the most exciting Peach Jam game you saw was a couple of years ago. Are you putting that ahead of the Antoine Dent Dirk Nowitzki contest?
No. You know what? I'm sorry. It was the third most exciting game, because the second most exciting game was when Antoine Dent and Tyrone Shine and Jeff Bolton, those guys, put it on Dirk Nowitzki. Augusta Metros put it on Dirk Nowitzki, the All-Europe squad, about 20 years ago. The very first Peach Jam game to ever be played. But the most exciting game, Keenan.
Who was the coach in that game? Who was the coach in that game, by the way?
I think Keenan Mann was, and I think I was like the water boy, or possibly the assistant. I can't quite remember. But the most exciting game, Keenan, and I'm ashamed of you for not remembering this, but was when our Metros team was 3-2 for the week, and we were looking to end up, or 2-3, and we were looking to end up 3-3. We couldn't get to pool play, past pool play. It was already decided, and neither could the Georgia Stars. But it was a personal game, and our boy Will had long ago chosen to roll with the boys from Atlanta. And he was still our guy. He was still our guy, but we definitely wanted to get him. And what was Pee Wee's real name from Josie?
Jamal Tate.
Jamal Tate did a halfway decent job guarding Will. I remember I remember you made him fall one time, and the whole gym went nuts. But we somehow pulled out the victory against Will and his Georgia Stars.
Simply because Max Owens, the UNC guy, Didn't give me the ball in the end.
Okay. Yeah.
No, that was a good time.
Yeah, it was probably because he's a UNC guy that he didn't give you the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Good
yeah,
call, Chad. You're right. You're right. Good call.
yeah.
So
Well,
here, I got one more thing. So when we did the first installment of the show, you were handing out nicknames.
oh yes.
So, and I don't know whether I got enough of them here, but I got to give a little background now. You used to be a long time ago. You were one of the first Augusta Metro basketball players.
Sure.
And I was I think the first Augusta Metro coach.
Sure.
And my assistant at the time was William Lester, who may be highlighted at some point.
Good.
And I don't remember where we were, but you had just come out of the game. I think you were in foul trouble, and this other team started putting it on us. So
Okay.
my first offering up, I have three of them here that I'm going to offer up, but the first one I'm going to offer up is the one that Will turned to me dead serious and said, I think we need to put Deadeye back in. so
Deadeye.
that's number one. That's
Okay.
number one. The second one is a little more practical. We may call you the commish.
Okay.
And then the third one, I'm a little older than both of you guys, but there was a children's book series that we used to read all the time called Encyclopedia Brown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I
And
remember.
this guy, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was going to say, this guy had he was a boy detective, but he had all the stats on everything. And it's so funny that you were rattling off stats at the beginning of this show that just made that one maybe stick even a little harder.
That's good. Hey, and me remembering that game, that Peach Jam game from 20 years ago that didn't mean
Exactly.
anything. And yeah, okay, I got you.
I think you guys wanted that game more than anything.
Oh, you know it. We beat Dirk Nowitzki and Will Avery in the same week. That's a good week. Well, hey, here's some advice. Come in here, Ben, real quick. Keenan, you have to meet Ben. I know you've met him, but you have to connect with Ben when you want to put it on somebody with these nicknames. Get with Ben, and he'll probably like come up with an Encyclopedia Brown image and all kinds of little stuff like that.
Good to hear.
Maybe we'll get a picture of Smoothie P. Will Lester and put it on one of the next shows.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, man. We'll try to do something again real soon because the three of us hosted the Player 360 Invitational middle school tournament. We had 17 middle school games in there last week, or teams in there last weekend. The Greenbrier and ARC varsity teams and our GAIS Eagles, all ages were in there. The ABR Live Tip-Off Invitational is coming up next weekend. So, we're involved not just in commenting on what's going on with basketball, but also hosting it, coaching it, and, young guys like Will even play it from time to time. So we'll do some more stuff real soon. Thanks for joining us, Keenan. And we will see Keenan and everybody else in the gym, right?
See you in the gym, guys.